In March 2024, the quiet town of Brandon, Mississippi, was rocked by an unimaginable crime involving a young girl. 14-year-old Carly Gregg had always appeared to live a typical life, but hidden beneath the surface were struggles that few recognized. Carly's story quickly gripped the town, raising questions about what might drive a teenager to commit such violence. Carly had long dealt with feelings of isolation and anxiety. She found it difficult to connect with peers, and even with her family, tension often simmered below the surface. Her mother, Ashley Smiley, a dedicated high school teacher, held high expectations for Carly. Despite Ashley's hopes for her daughter, Carly felt misunderstood and pressured. Her stepfather, Heath Smiley, was a source of calm, often trying to bridge the gap between Carly and her mother. But over time, Carly's internal struggles intensified. She began experimenting with substances, which led to arguments with her mother, and only deepened her feelings of isolation and distress. On the day of the tragedy, Carly returned home from school with her mother, and soon, tensions flared into an argument. Overwhelmed by the confrontation, Carly went into her parents' bedroom, retrieved a .357 Magnum pistol hidden under the mattress, and returned to her bedroom. When her mother entered the room, Carly fired, fatally wounding her. Her reaction was shockingly calm as she sent a text from her mother's phone inviting Heath home with a seemingly casual message, "When will you be home, honey?" When Heath arrived, Carly ambushed him, shooting him in the shoulder. Despite his injury, he managed to disarm her and escape to seek help. Meanwhile, Carly waited inside, remaining eerily composed. The police arrived shortly after and took her into custody without resistance. Carly's strange calmness and the cold planning evident in her actions shocked the community. As investigators delved into the case, they uncovered evidence of premeditation. Carly had not only hidden the gun in advance but had also orchestrated her friend's arrival at the house, exposing her friend to the gruesome scene. Interviews with friends and family painted a disturbing picture of Carly's mental state and the conflict she faced. The community was stunned. How could a 14-year-old commit such a calculated act? And what could drive her to such lengths? During the trial, details emerged about Carly's struggles with isolation, mental health, and her fraught relationship with her mother. Witnesses testified to her recent behavioral changes and growing distress, while psychologists examined her capacity to understand the consequences of her actions. Brandon, a town that once knew only calm and familiarity, was now left with painful questions about the tragedy that unfolded within one of its own families, forever changing lives and leaving the community to grapple with an unthinkable event. The case of Carly Gregg shocked the quiet town of Brandon, revealing a young woman capable of unimaginable violence against her own family. Prosecutors argued that Carly acted with deliberate intent, painting her as someone who had carefully planned and executed a brutal ambush on her mother, Ashley Smiley, and attempted to do the same to her stepfather, Heath Smiley. Key evidence included security footage showing Carly moving through the house with a hidden gun and text messages luring her stepfather home. The prosecution portrayed her actions as calculated, contending that she was fully aware of the consequences and acted with clear malice. Heath Smiley's emotional testimony underscored the impact of Carly's betrayal. Recounting his shock and heartbreak at being ambushed by a stepdaughter he had treated as his own, his words resonated deeply with the jury, intensifying the tragic narrative. As evidence was presented, Carly remained stoic, giving little away, her composure adding to the eerie image the prosecution painted. The defense, however, presented a vastly different view, focusing on Carly's mental health. They argued that her actions were driven not by malice but by deep-seated psychological issues. A psychiatrist testified that Carly suffered from depression, anxiety, and a history of isolation. He noted that recent changes in her medication could have worsened her symptoms, leading to impulsivity and possibly a dissociative state. The defense claimed that Carly's calm demeanor on the day of the crime was symptomatic of mental distress, not evidence of cruelty. The prosecution countered this by emphasizing Carly's deliberate actions, hiding the gun, and carefully setting up her plan. They argued that, despite her struggles, Carly knew right from wrong and demonstrated awareness of her actions. Experts debated Carly's mental state, but the jury ultimately found the prosecution's arguments more convincing. After days of deliberation, the jury delivered a guilty verdict on all counts, sentencing Carly to life in prison. The judge acknowledged the complexity of her mental health struggles, but stated that the evidence of intent was undeniable. The sentencing stirred a range of reactions in the courtroom. Heath Smiley showed a mix of relief and sorrow as the bond with his stepdaughter was shattered beyond repair. Carly's story deeply impacted her community, prompting conversations about the importance of mental health support for young people. Many questioned if her actions could have been prevented had her struggles been noticed sooner. Outside the courthouse, opinions were mixed. Some saw the life sentence as too harsh for someone so young, while others felt justice was served. Carly's case left the town grappling with difficult questions about responsibility, mental illness, and the hidden pain that sometimes resides even within those closest to us. The tragedy served as a grim reminder of the potential consequences when silent suffering goes unnoticed, leaving everyone to wonder if the outcome could have been different. In 2021, Megan Newborough, a 23-year-old HR worker, disappeared after leaving her home in Nuneaton, England, for a walk with a romantic interest, Ross McCullum. Megan and Ross had met through work and recently started seeing each other. On August 6th, Megan left her house around 7:30 p.m., but by the next day she was reported missing by her concerned family after failing to return or respond to messages. Police investigations quickly focused on Ross, who lived in Colville. Officers visited his home while he was at a pub, where they found signs of a struggle. Later that day, Ross was tracked down and arrested on suspicion of kidnapping. During questioning, he revealed that Megan's body was left in a rural levee near Woodhouse Eaves. Police located her partially dressed remains, noting that her throat had been slashed, although the cause of death was later confirmed as strangulation. GPS data from Megan's phone helped reconstruct the sequence of events. That night, Ross had driven Megan's car, disposing of her body and then discarding several personal items, including her glasses and clothes, to hide evidence. He abandoned her car and continued covering his tracks by disposing of his own blood-stained clothing, all while sending Megan affectionate messages to feign innocence. It was later discovered that Ross's messages to Megan had grown more aggressive in the days leading up to her death, revealing insecurities he struggled with, especially regarding a medication side effect that affected him intimately. Evidence of his violent actions came from CCTV footage capturing him near a fitness center, discarding items linked to the crime. The court found Ross guilty of murder, revealing the horrifying sequence he attempted to cover up. Despite his attempt to hide evidence, his erratic behavior and confession led police to swiftly piece together the brutal truth. Megan's tragic story gripped her community, serving as a stark reminder of the dangers sometimes hidden within personal relationships. In a tragic and complex case that shattered lives, Megan Newborough, a compassionate young woman, lost her life at the hands of Ross McCullum, a man she trusted. Megan's tragic end came on a night when she visited Ross at his home. After an intimate moment didn't go as expected, Ross snapped, killing Megan in what the prosecution argued was a fit of rage over unresolved feelings of humiliation. Ross's behavior after the murder raised additional red flags. Shortly after leaving the house with Megan's body in his car, he texted her phone, asking if she had arrived safely. He even began searching for details on notorious criminals and killers, further complicating his claims that the killing was unintended. Ross argued in court that he had been triggered by childhood trauma involving past abuse, which led to an episode of post-traumatic stress disorder. His defense claimed that memories of the abuse had resurfaced, causing him to lose control and unintentionally strangle Megan. Ross described Megan as one of the few people he trusted, someone who provided comfort during his difficult times. However, the jury did not believe his defense, concluding that the act was murder rather than manslaughter. After a 6-week trial, the jury took less than 90 minutes to find Ross guilty, sentencing him to life in prison with a minimum of 23 years before he could seek parole. Megan's family, devastated by the loss, expressed their heartbreak, remembering her as the glue that held them together. Megan's father, Anthony Noob, described her as someone who always saw the best in people, a quality that ultimately led her to trust Ross, who tragically took her life. In Megan's memory, her family organized a marathon fundraiser for White Ribbon, a charity focused on ending violence against women and girls. Additionally, they established the Megan Newborough Foundation to continue supporting causes close to her heart, creating a legacy to honor the kind, hopeful life Megan had led. In a seemingly separate, equally disturbing case, Douglas Doug Benfield's sudden and violent death revealed tensions and secrets that shocked his quiet suburban community. A former Navy veteran and technology consultant, Doug was known for his resilience and dedication to his family. especially his young daughter. However, his whirlwind marriage to Ashley, a ballet dancer half his age, soon gave rise to a troubled relationship. Friends observed subtle but troubling changes in Doug's demeanor, signs that suggested his marriage was strained and that he might have been grappling with deeper issues. The morning after Doug's death, his wife, Ashley, stumbled to a neighbor's house, visibly shaken, claiming he had attacked her, forcing her to act in self-defense. Inside their home, however, officers found a different story. The living room was filled with evidence of a violent struggle over turned furniture, shattered glass, and Doug's body bearing multiple gunshot wounds. Inconsistencies in Ashley's account became apparent. Doug's injuries didn't suggest a struggle, and his wounds seemed inflicted without any defense on Ashley's part. Detective Evelyn Hayes, a seasoned investigator known for her calm, methodical approach, was assigned to the case. Hayes carefully reviewed reports, noticing that details at the scene did not align with Ashley's claim of self-defense. The absence of defensive wounds on her body and Doug's isolated injuries raised immediate questions about her story. Interviews with neighbors and friends added more complexities. Some neighbors described witnessing frequent arguments between the couple, and Doug's close friend, Frank, revealed that Doug had expressed growing concerns about his marriage, including feeling increasingly isolated and unsure about his relationship with Ashley. The case took another twist when Hayes began investigating people close to Ashley. Alicia, Ashley's mother, had a tense relationship with Doug, openly criticizing his influence over her daughter and even suggesting that he was controlling. Doug's close friend, Frank, had also clashed with Ashley over her alleged attempts to manipulate Doug's life. As Detective Hayes worked through these details, a darker portrait of the couple's life began to emerge, a story filled with resentment, strained relationships, and possible manipulation. Ultimately, both cases paint a haunting picture of trust betrayed, innocent lives lost, and the enduring pain left behind. While Ross Mallam's conviction brought some closure to Megan Newborough's family, they are left grappling with the deep void her death has left. Similarly, Doug Benfield's family and friends are haunted by the mystery surrounding his death, awaiting justice and answers that only time and investigation might provide. Doug Benfield, a Navy veteran and technology consultant, had a reputation for strength and kindness, making his sudden death at the hands of his young wife, Ashley, all the more shocking to those who knew him. The couple's marriage, however, was fraught with tension and unspoken conflicts. Despite Ashley's claims of self-defense, Detective Evelyn Hayes found the evidence didn't align with her story. The crime scene told a different story: a coffee table overturned, blood smeared on the floor, and Doug's wounds suggesting an attempt to flee rather than attack. Hayes dug deeper, uncovering a web of motives. Alicia, Ashley's fiercely protective mother, harbored resentment toward Doug, seeing him as an obstacle to her daughter's happiness. Frank, Doug's business partner, hinted at tension over Doug's growing withdrawal from their business. As Hayes interrogated Ashley, she noticed inconsistencies in her narrative and discovered a staged letter portraying Doug as abusive. The detective's persistence led her to a crucial piece of evidence: a phone recording revealing Doug pleading in Ashley's calm, calculated voice, far from a woman in fear. In a final confrontation, Hayes presented the evidence to Ashley, who, cornered, admitted to her motive without remorse. Doug's control over her life was intolerable, and she wanted her freedom at any cost. As the truth emerged, Doug's family and friends were left devastated, struggling with the betrayal of a man they saw as kind and supportive. The courtroom was silent as Ashley received her sentence, her expression cold and detached. Detective Hayes, though satisfied to have uncovered the truth, felt the weight of a case that laid bare the devastating cost of manipulation and control, forever scarring Doug's family and the Lakewood Ranch community. In the small, peaceful town of Columbia, Illinois, the Coleman family appeared to embody the American dream. Chris Coleman, a former Marine, worked as a head of security for a well-known ministry, living with his wife Sherry and their two young sons, Gavin and Garrett. Sherry was a devoted mother, known for her warmth and kindness. To outsiders, the Colemans seemed like a happy, close-knit family, but cracks began to appear beneath this perfect facade. In the months before the tragedy, Chris started receiving disturbing emails threatening his family, which he claimed were from a stalker. However, in May 2009, tragedy struck. Chris, after leaving for an early morning workout, returned to a horrific scene. Sherry and their sons were found dead in their home, with chilling messages spray-painted on the walls, suggesting punishment and revenge. Strangely, there was no sign of forced entry, raising suspicions that the killer may have been someone close to the family. As the investigation unfolded, detectives uncovered a complex web of deceit. Chris had been engaged in a secret affair with Tara Lintz, Sherry's close friend, and had promised her a future together. Divorce was not an option for Chris, as it would jeopardize his career and reputation within the ministry. Investigators began piecing together evidence linking him to the crime, including the spray paint found at the scene, which matched a recent purchase made with his credit card, and digital forensics tying the threatening emails back to his own computer. The case built a strong argument for Chris's guilt, suggesting he had staged the murder as an outside attack to eliminate his family while preserving his public image. Chris Coleman was ultimately convicted of murder and sentenced to life without parole, bringing some relief to Sherry's family. However, the tragedy left a lasting scar on the tight-knit Columbia community. The Coleman case sparked conversations on hidden domestic issues, the importance of vigilance, and the potential for betrayal by those closest to us, serving as a chilling reminder of the unseen struggles that can lie behind closed doors.